In 1925, a seasoned British explorer named Frank Kingdon Ward stood at the edge of the Tsangpo Gorge in Tibet. He had braved jungles, mountains, and disease across Asia, but nothing prepared him for what he saw. The gorge dropped thousands of feet into a mist-shrouded abyss, and from its depths came a thunderous roar, the sound of a waterfall so immense it could swallow entire villages. Kingdon Ward was searching for the legendary Tsangpo Falls, rumored to be the world's highest waterfall. He never found it, but others tried, and one by one, they disappeared. Some were swallowed by landslides, others starved in the labyrinthine canyons. A few simply vanished without a trace. The gorge became a graveyard for dreamers. This is the story of the Tsangpo Gorge, a place where nature's fury met human obsession and where every expedition ended in disaster. The legend of the Tsangpo Falls began centuries ago. Tibetan pilgrims spoke of a hidden waterfall where the Yarlung Tsangpo River, the mightiest river in Tibet, crashed through a narrow chasm in the Himalayas. The river, which flows eastward across the Tibetan plateau, suddenly turns south, carving the deepest gorge on Earth, the Tsangpo Gorge, also known as the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon. In the 19th century, British surveyors mapped the region but could not penetrate its interior. Rumors persisted of a waterfall over 100 feet high, perhaps higher than Niagara. By the early 20th century, the falls had become a holy grail for explorers. They were drawn by the promise of discovery, but also by the challenge. The gorge was a maze of cliffs, rapids, and impenetrable forest. The local Mampa people warned that the gorge was cursed, that spirits guarded the falls. Few listened. In 1924, an expedition led by Captain F.M. Bailey set out to find the falls. Bailey was a veteran of the Great Game, the espionage rivalry between Britain and Russia in Central Asia. He had explored Tibet disguised as a monk. Now, with official backing, he assembled a team of porters, surveyors, and soldiers. They departed from Sikkim carrying supplies for months. The early days were hopeful. The weather was clear and the local guides were cooperative. They followed the Tsangpo River as it carved through the Himalayas, the water a milky green from glacial silt. Bailey wrote in his journal of the stunning beauty, rhododendrons in bloom, snow-capped peaks, and the constant roar of the river. They made good progress, covering 10 miles a day. But as they entered the gorge proper, the walls closed in. The path narrowed to a ledge barely 2 feet wide. Below, the river churned with fury. The first warning came from a Manpa elder. He approached Bailey's camp one evening, his face weathered and eyes haunted. He spoke of the waterfall, calling it Pamako, the hidden land of peace. But he warned that no one who sought it returned. The spirits of the gorge, he said, demanded sacrifice. Bailey dismissed the warning as superstition. But soon, the expedition encountered its first tragedy. A porter slipped on a wet rock and plunged into the river. His body was never recovered. The team continued, but morale faltered. Then the rains came. For days, they huddled under tarps as the monsoon unleashed torrents. Landslides roared down the cliffs, obliterating the trail behind them. Bailey realized they were trapped. Supplies were running low. The temperature dropped. Men began to cough, their lungs filling with fluid. Bailey made a decision. They would push forward, hoping to find a way out. It was a fatal mistake. Despite the setbacks, the expedition pressed deeper into the gorge. The landscape became surreal. The cliffs rose thousands of feet, so steep that sunlight reached the bottom only at noon. The river narrowed to a furious torrent, its roar a constant, deafening presence. The men moved in single file, clinging to roots and rocks. They crossed makeshift bridges of vines that swayed over the abyss. Bailey noted in his diary the strange beauty, orchids growing on sheer rock faces, waterfalls cascading from unseen heights, and the eerie calls of gibbons echoing through the mist. But the beauty was deceptive. The air was thick with humidity, and leeches infested every leaf. Men developed fevers and open sores, their boots rotted. They survived on rice and tea, but hunger gnawed at them. Yet they kept going, driven by the hope of seeing the falls. They believed they were close. They were not. After weeks of hardship, Bailey faced a critical choice. They had reached a fork in the gorge. One branch seemed impassable, a vertical cliff. The other was a side canyon with a gentler slope. The porters wanted to take the side canyon, believing it would lead to a village. Bailey, however, insisted on following the main river. He was convinced the falls lay ahead. He ignored the pleas of his men. They forced their way up the cliff, using ropes and pitons. It took 3 days to ascend a few hundred feet. At the top, they found only more cliffs stretching endlessly. The side canyon, they later learned, would have led to a pass and safety. Bailey's decision sealed their fate. They were now committed to the gorge's heart. Food ran out, they ate their pack animals, then they ate moss. Despair set in, men refused to move. Bailey himself began to hallucinate, seeing waterfalls in every distant mist. Then came the catastrophe. The expedition was traversing a narrow ledge when the ground gave way. A landslide triggered by the relentless rain sent tons of rock and mud crashing down. 3 porters were swept into the river, their screams drowned by the roar. The survivors scrambled for higher ground, but the slide had cut off their retreat. They were stranded on a small, crumbling shelf with no food and no way out. That night, the temperature plummeted. Men huddled together for warmth, but 2 died of exposure. Bailey, injured and delirious, ordered the remaining men to build a raft from logs and vines. They launched into the rapids, hoping to ride the river to safety. The raft capsized within seconds. Another man drowned. The others clung to rocks, shivering as the current threatened to pull them under. The dream of the waterfall had become a nightmare of survival. The peak of horror came on the 5th day of their stranding. Bailey's remaining men were starving, their bodies wasting away. One porter, driven mad by hunger, attempted to eat a poisonous root. He died in agony, convulsing on the rocks. Another simply walked into the river, disappearing without a sound. Bailey, barely conscious, recorded in his journal that he had begun to see visions of the waterfall, a towering cascade of crystal water, inviting and serene. But when he reached out, it turned to blood. The men who survived would later describe a feeling of being watched, as if the gorge itself was malevolent. On the 7th day, a rescue party from a nearby village found them, emaciated, frostbitten, and broken. Only 4 of the original 15 survived. Bailey was carried out on a stretcher, muttering about the falls. He never returned to Tibet. The Tsangpo Falls remained hidden, taking its toll in lives. After Bailey's expedition, the Tsangpo Gorge claimed more victims. In the 1930s, a team of American geographers vanished without a trace. In 1950, a Chinese survey party was lost to a landslide. The falls became a legend of death. Finally, in 1993, an international expedition using satellite imagery and helicopters located the Tsangpo Falls, a series of cascades totaling 108 feet. Impressive, but not the world's highest. The mystery was solved, but the cost had been immense. Over a dozen lives had been sacrificed in the search. The gorge itself was later designated a nature reserve, its treacherous paths closed to explorers. Today, the falls are known as the Hidden Falls of Tsangpo, a reminder of nature's power and the folly of obsession. The bodies of those who sought it lie somewhere in the depths, consumed by the river that once whispered of glory. The Tsangpo Gorge stands as a testament to the thin line between discovery and destruction. Its waterfall, once mythical, is now known, but the stories of those who died seeking it live on. They remind us that some places are not meant to be found, that the human spirit, however brave, can be crushed by the indifference of nature. Today, the gorge is protected, but its legend persists. Every year, adventurers still ask about the falls, and locals still tell the tale of the cursed chasm. If you enjoyed this documentary, please like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have turned back? And stay tuned for our next episode, where we explore another place where nature's fury met human ambition. Until then, remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved. The Tsangpo Gorge keeps its secrets, and its dead keep their silence.